isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators, where we sit down often with a special guest and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. And who the hell are we? Well, I'm Simon, and this is Boy Genius. Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking to others in the wedding industry. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, but I will get onto that a little bit later in the show. Gregg, who are we talking to?
We are talking to Liam and B. Hello, guys. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, we're doing well. We're doing well. Thank you. How are you two? Good?
Yeah, not bad.
Very well, very well. Yes. Thank you for joining us on this
Pleasure.
lovely December morning.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, it's not so lovely in Lancashire. Is it nice in Scotland?
Oh, no, it's pure miserable. It's
Wet and
shit.
grey, as you would expect.
so miserable.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Indeed.
Have you guys been enjoying some Christmas parties or any festivities? Have you been drinking more than usual?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, I've just got back from Sri Lanka from a yoga and surfing retreat in Sri Lanka. I got back a couple of days ago, 2 days ago.
All
so
right.
I have not been drinking or feeling Christmassy or anything. It's just been 30 degrees in paradise.
Wow.
Absolute paradise.
Yeah. So I've been solo parenting, and this is the reason why I'm looking quite dishevelled and pale, and B is looking all beautiful and glowing.
So you have been
between
drinking a lot
solo
then?
parenting and paradise.
Wow.
So do I normally look dishevelled and pale when you're off travelling the world?
Absolutely not. No.
To having weddings.
Brutal truth.
digging out of that hole there.
Yeah. So she's been away. So she was 40 this year, B, and
Thanks for outing me immediately.
and yeah, so I bought her this fancy retreat to Sri Lanka. So she's been there for the past week, and she's had a marvelous time.
I have. Feel restored and refreshed, ready to come back to absolute mayhem in the last 6 working days before Christmas.
Yes.
Well, before schools break up for Christmas, should I say?
Oh God, I'm already fearing it. To be honest, already fearing it. So B, did you learn anything enlightening about yourself, or about surfing, or your flexibility?
Well, I had never surfed before, so surfing's hard. And I realised that there is a thing called surf toe, where you basically just get blisters all over your toes from constantly like gripping onto your surfboard as you're paddling out. So that was new and exciting.
Is there not? Is there something else called surfer's ear as well, where you get like seawater stuck in your
What is
ear?
that?
There might be. I did not have surfer's ear, but
Never heard of that.
Well, you've got the surfing bug now, haven't you? You want to get yourself to you fancy moving to Cornwall now, don't you? Should we if you pack up and go to Cornwall?
I mean,
Relocate?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure
We could
the
go to
Cornwall
Scotland. I'm sure they
water.
have surfing in Scotland.
Oh yeah, but it's cold as fuck.
Yeah, it's not going to be as warm as Sri Lanka anywhere in the UK.
Surfer's ear is
No,
in
I
fact a thing, by the way, guys. It is actually a thing. So there you go. I was right. I just had to Google it there.
There you go.
Have you
Yeah.
Googled it, have you? Okay. What are the symptoms of surfer's ear?
That's all. That's all. Do you want me to Google it again?
The surfers have ears.
I imagine that it's gross. It's going to be gross, isn't it?
Pussy, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of puss. Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't actually know the symptoms. I just went, is that a real thing? It's a real thing, and then quit the window. I just had to know. All these things linger in my brain, and they just eat at my consciousness forever. Because I'm weird like that. But yeah, so
You were out last night, though, weren't you?
I was out last night. I was out. I was seeing Hosier at the Hydro in Glasgow.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, big fan of Hosier. Unfortunately, couldn't get standing tickets, so we were in the cheap sheets.
Oh, were you?
The cheap sheets. Yeah, up the top, and I was. Yeah, it was great. It was really good. Loud as fuck though. It was so loud. It was so loud. I had to leave and get ear protection from the information desk, which just makes me sound
That's very sensible.
Very sensible.
But that makes me sound really old, right?
No,
All the
sensible.
cool kids are like,
Liam,
yeah, they're earning their hearing loss, and here I am completely anyway, yeah.
Liam has permanently damaged his ears from being in loud environments, weddings.
It's 21 years of weddings, isn't it? You know, because we talked about this on the other podcast, our podcast, and
right.
so I've always thought that my ears were pretty good, and B tells me otherwise.
He's not. He's really deaf. It's a problem.
Yeah. So what happened? Oh, do you know what? I think I might have got surfer's ear. So we were in Corfu on our holidays.
Are you waiting me up now?
No, okay. I got some water in my ear, and I got this horrendous infection in my ear, and I couldn't hear for ages. So I went to the doctors about it, and like they couldn't quite figure out what's going on. So they booked me in to go and see the ENT specialist in Preston. Mm-hmm. So I went in there thinking, you know, everything's fine. Like my hearing's all cleared now. I'm good. So sat down, did like, you know, the test where you put the headphones on, you're in a quiet room, you got the little, you got a little button, and you got to press a button when you hear like, you know, beep, beep. And I'm like, I felt like I was smashing it. I'm like, yeah, I've got this. Oh, that was really quiet. I've got it. Beep. Yeah.
Thought you'd nailed it. Didn't
I thought
you?
I'd smashed it. And then afterwards, it was like, yeah, you're going to have to wait for 40 minutes now to get your results back. And I was like, I was tempted to go because I had to. What did I have to do?
I was going to the spa.
I had to take B to a spa. So I thought, I need to get B to the spa. So I thought I was going to go, but I thought, no, I'll hang on, I'll get the results. So I skipped into this room, sat down, I was like, go on. I've smashed it, haven't I? And he was like, I'm sorry to say, Mr. Crawley, but you've got the hearing of a 60-year-old.
Wow.
Weddings.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't think it's that bad, but apparently, yeah, it's all down to, you know, us kind of going into these weddings where it's not like, we're not getting like battered for a long amount of time, are we? But we're there every week. With like bands playing in the background. You think nothing of it, do you? But so it's actually caught up with me, and now I've got to wear these daft earplugs, which is an absolute nightmare because when people are trying to talk to you at the wedding, you're like, hang on a minute, mate, what are you saying? And you got to stick them back in again. And
we went to a supplier's Christmas party. When was it? 2 weeks ago? And I could not hear after half an hour of being around the band. So I don't know what it must be like for you going to the weddings week in, week out.
Yeah. Well, have you guys got tinnitus? Have you got like the ringing in your ears?
No, I don't.
I feel like I get it sometimes. Like I reckon I might have a wee bit of it. It's not too bad. But we always put earplugs in at weddings because we came from an audio tech background, so we were kind of we need to be sensible about this. And you find yourself, you walk past a speaker, or you just find yourself next to a speaker at some point taking shots, and it's like, it's terrible.
Taking shots? Yeah. You are a party animal. Look at you. So professional taking drinks at weddings.
Do you know what? Like, I wish I'd been as sensible as you guys from I used to do like loads of clubbing. I met B in a nightclub actually, and you know, I was one of these people who used to stand next to the speakers, you know, with my glow sticks, like, and so I just, it's core with me. I've learnt my lesson, so I'm trying now to be sensible with the old hearing because I kind of need my ears for another 20 years of doing this job.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so like Greg said, we always carry ear protection around. But I used to be like, I started learning to play the drums when I was like 14 years old, and I just didn't think about it at the time. And you know, you'd finish drumming. I mean, and I don't know if you've been around an actual drum kit. If you've played one, they are so loud. And I do remember like finishing every drum session. It had the ringing in the ears, and I just thought it was pretty normal. Until I started to wear like ear defenders because it made the kit sound better. But I definitely did some damage. So I don't want to do that test. I don't want to do that test, Liam. I'd be like,
do it, man.
You're actually clinically deaf.
But I can hear. I feel like I can hear everything. It's just apparently I can't. But I don't feel like I'm deaf, so I'm just gonna, carry along on my merry little way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a good like if you're listening out there and you go to weddings, or you shoot back, or like even if you go to gigs, like wear or just take ear protection. So I don't know what kind of ones you've got, Liam. You can get the foam ones, and they just deaden pretty much everything. But you can get like really good quality ones that take away, certain frequencies that are the most damaging.
That's right. Yeah.
Definitely invest in those for the safety of your ears.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, if you forget, toilet tissue. Just go to the toilet, stick some tissue in your ear. You're all good.
Yeah,
it's better than nothing. Isn't
last resort. Yeah,
I've done that, Owen. Yeah. I've done it, and yes, you do look like an idiot, but who cares, right? Funnily enough, surfer's ear is the common name for a condition caused by repeated cold exposure to water and wind, which causes like bony growths in your ear. So it probably isn't the infection part, but
so it's not the water.
Yeah, really. Bony growth.
Yeah, a bony growth, which can lead to hearing loss.
So
you're so childish, mate.
Oh my God, I didn't even lower myself to think that way. B.
I know what she's thinking.
Usually it's me lowering the tone a lot. Thank you for that. That's wonderful.
So, before we go too further, who are Liam and B? Like, let's introduce you. Who are you, and what is it that you guys do?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, you go.
So I'm Liam. This is B. And we're husband and wife. We have been married for, how long have we been married for, B?
A really long
16
time.
years.
17 years, maybe?
Yeah, we got married in 2007. Now, I've been a wedding photographer for 21 years now, which is bonkers to think that I've done weddings for that amount of time. And I met B when she was studying in Liverpool. So all those years ago, I used to have a business. I came out of university. I did photography at university. But then I went through this period of trying to kind of figure out which direction I wanted to go in for my photography. And so one of the things I used to do was sell pictures in nightclubs. So I had like a little team of students who used to work for me. And I used to go to nightclubs in Chester and Wolverhampton with my little team, and we used to sell key rings. And so my brother Richie, he did a similar thing in Liverpool. And so he had the beautiful B working for him.
I was one of his keyring girls.
So she was one of the star keyring girls of my brother's kind of wing, his staff. And then one night we thought, Richie, let's get some of our staff together. Let's go on a night out. So after work, we went to this nightclub in Liverpool called the G Bar, which is, if you know anything about the club scene in Liverpool, it's iconic. It's an amazing place. Like, you would go to Garland's first, which is a gay nightclub, and then after that, if you still had like steam in the tank, you would go to the G Bar, which was like this kind of underground rave cave. And so I met B in there at about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Our hands met over the bar.
Yeah.
And that was it. Love at first sight. We were engaged 3 months later.
We were engaged 3 months later, yeah.
Wow.
I'm one of these people that, if you kind of, and it just felt right for me. So, I proposed, we were engaged, and she was still studying at the time. So I remember her, she used to kind of come over my shoulder when I was like editing back then. And back then it was still Photoshop. We were editing on Photoshop. I don't think Lightroom was a thing back then.
No.
She was like, "What are you doing there?" It's like, "Well, I'm editing these wedding photographs that I did recently." She took an interest in that, and after she graduated, she did a little course on Photoshop, and then it just kind of snowballed from that. So we've kind of been inseparable ever since. She took over the editing side of the business, and so I've been really lucky for the past 20 odd years. I've not had to edit any photographs. I've if you put Lightroom in front of me, I wouldn't know what to do. So I'm quite lucky in that respect.
It's a different dynamic to most people, because I know that most couples, they shoot together, they work together in that way, whereas we separated things out. And because we have a little girl, it means that I am able to stay at home with her whilst Liam goes off and lives his best life flying around the world.
Fair
Someone's got the raw end of the deal, and I'm not bitter about it at all.
Yeah. That's our story, really. That's how it began. That's how it evolved, and here we are now, all these years later, still doing all right, I think.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. You're all right at what you do, I suppose.
So are you.
Thanks.
Oh, you guys. So, well, hang on, Liam. The next time you complain about having to stay home with the kids while B is surfing, I'm just saying you're due that work compensation. That's your time. You need to do it. It's your payment.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thanks,
so I mean, obviously, you're traveling around, and B, you're staying at home editing. How there's obviously other roles in business like marketing and all that kind of stuff. How do you break up all the other roles in business?
So Liam is emails and SEO, and I am everything else.
Yeah. What? Okay. What is everything else?
So website design, website copy, album designs, Instagram. Although you have been doing a bit more Instagram recently.
Yeah, this makes me sound like I'm a real lazy bastard, but I'm not. You know, I do pull my weight, guys. You know, and I do a lot of travel. Yeah, I'm just trying to like justify my position here.
You do travel an awful lot. Realistically, from about April until October, Liam is at home maybe 1 or 2 days a week, maybe not even that.
Yeah.
But I mean, for all of September, he was home for 2 days. So
well, it's evolved that way for us. So like my weddings used to be quite local, and then as the years kind of progressed, and it just kind of went national and then like international. So it's very rare that I'm doing any weddings locally. I do a lot of work in London and obviously quite a lot of work overseas as well. So lots of travel for me. And if I'm at home, I'm a bit of a SEO like geek. I love SEO. So that's what I spend my time doing when I'm at home, is creating pages for our business that rank well in Google, which does take up a considerable amount of time. So that's how I'm justifying the fact that B does everything else. I'm actually spending like hours during the week creating content for our website and making it rank.
Yeah.
I heard making it rank and I thought, oh, he's making it bad? Like, is rank a Scottish term?
Like rank rotten?
Aye. Anyway, but yeah, rank highly on Google. Yeah, sorry. That's my dyslexia again. Why are you traveling about? Like, why destination weddings? Like, is there just not enough weddings happening in this country, or maybe you just like escaping for the sun and the?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like adventures. I like traveling. So my first destination wedding was in 2012, and that was with do you know Adam Johnson, ARJ Photography?
It sounds familiar. I recognise.
Yeah, he's based in Manchester. He's an amazing photographer, good friend of ours, Adam. So he's been shooting weddings for a long time as well. And he approached me in 2012 and said, Liam, can you come to Kenya with me and do this destination wedding? And I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing, mate. Like, let's do it. Big Indian wedding in Kenya. It was his first destination wedding, and it was mine as well. And back then I wasn't really thinking about destinations. So we had this kind of like dream trip to Kenya, and we photographed this huge Indian wedding next to this lake. There was hippos running free. It was amazing. And after that, we both kind of like caught the travel bug, and there was just something about jumping on a plane, going to like a strange foreign country where everything's different. Like the culture's different, the language is different, the weather's different. Everything was just like so unique and different, and it was such a challenge. Like we were kind of thrown into this kind of like strange experience where you're still jet lagged. It's the workload is like really intense, and then you come out the other end, and then you see what you created being under that sort of pressure, and it just kind of, I don't know, I got a bit of a kind of strange buzz from. You have the kind
of personality that thrives on being pushed out of your comfort zone, though, don't you? Like adventure, all of that kind of thing is your thing. Liam was in the Marines initially before he went to uni to do landscape photography, but got injured out, and that is deep in your core, isn't it? That sense of adventure and
so it was that basically. It was just cool. I really like the fact that if you put yourself into positions that are high stress and out of your comfort zone, and seeing what you can achieve when you put under that kind of pressure, it makes you realize what you're capable of, and it makes you hungry for more. That's me anyway. So that's why I enjoy destination weddings.
Yeah.
Okay, you're like the David Goggins of wedding photos, then. Oh, you might not. Sorry, do you know who David Goggins is?
Yes.
No, who's David Goggins?
You don't know who David Goggins is?
No.
Okay.
Who is he?
You need to get him up on Instagram.
Yeah, Google him.
Who is he?
No, he's he had a book, and now I'm totally forgetting but it's basically just like he pushes himself to the absolute extreme just to see what he's capable of. And that's his whole brand. So every time he's like he does a crazy amount of workouts, and it's all about physical pain and all that kind of stuff, and like the will to keep going, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably not that extreme. It's like I'm not like attracted to like bungee jumping and like skydiving, that kind of thing.
But you do have a motorbike.
But I do have a motorbike, so it's little things like that. It's like I do a lot of work in London. Then I'm a country person. We live in Lancashire, and we've got like beautiful scenery nearby, and it's quiet and really peaceful. And like when I go to London, I kind of feel like I'm under a lot of pressure there because I don't really like the hustle and bustle of a big city. Right. But when I'm in London, the pressure that I feel in London, it makes me a better photographer almost. It's like, because I'm like under this sort of pressure, I think, well, I'm not letting this consume me. Let's see what I can do under this sort of pressure. So that's why I also enjoy shooting in London, even though I'm probably not at my happiest in London, but I'm always quite impressed with what I produce under that kind of pressure.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How do you deal with that pressure? Because a lot of people might just crack or just start crying in the corner. Do you have like any coping mechanisms or anything, or do you just go with the flow and see what happens?
Yeah, go with the flow. Yeah, like this kind of. I see like weddings like that in London, like a sort of a tsunami. So you just got to jump in the middle of the tsunami and roll with it, rather than kind of get left behind by it. If that makes sense, just kind of jump in the middle, roll with it, come out the other end, and you're all good. That's how I see it.
I think, again, it's part of your character that you are an incredibly laid-back person. He does not like schedules, lists. He's just like a roll with the punches kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so it works well for you being in that kind of environment because he doesn't get easily stressed.
No, you've got. I think, like, as you guys know, as working in the wedding industry, you've got to be quite laid back personalities because sometimes we are under a lot of pressure, and sometimes we kind of, sometimes we have to deal with difficult clients as well. Sometimes we're dealing with difficult planners. Sometimes timings go to absolute shit, don't they? And so to be able to kind of have that calm head on your shoulders is essential, isn't it, in what we do?
Yeah. I had a thought there because obviously you handle all the editing. How are you like after a wedding? Are you like Dropboxing the images so that the edit is faster, or are you just like what's your system there?
He's super chill. He just comes home with the images when he comes home. He's just like lay back, Liam.
Yeah. Well, generally I'm back like if I'm abroad, then I'm going to be back like within a couple of days. So that's enough time scale for you to kind of put together some previews, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not all that Dropbox stuff. We're not as organized as that, are we? No.
Although we've always managed to get out a set of previews for our couples within a week of the wedding. So, and it's never happened that that's not been possible.
No.
Has it?
No.
Maybe once this year. It was 10 days, but other than that.
Yeah.
And B, does it make you excited to see the images that Liam comes back with? Must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it does. And I feel like it's a really kind of symbiotic relationship where I know when I see photos what he wants out of it, but also at the same time he shoots things sometimes and knows exactly how I'm going to edit it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Especially with the creative portraits. I mean, less so with the documentary photos, but with the creative portraits, it's a definite team effort, isn't it?
I think like it just comes through like years of working together. We've both kind of built up this sort of understanding of what each of us wants from an image. So if I see something at a wedding and I'm like, I like this composition, and I can also see what B can do with this.
You have an ability to visualize things though. Like Liam can walk down the street and he can visualize where he would have a couple standing and exactly that. Whereas I can't. I do not have that. Have you heard of aphantasia, which is the inability to visualize? Yeah. So I can't visualize anything. When someone says to me, like, visualize yourself walking down some steps towards a golden door, you open the door into a meadow with a stream running through it, I see nothing. absolutely nothing. There is nothing there.
Yeah.
Whereas Liam can see it all and he can add more things to it. And I think this really pays off with his photography, being able to visualize a scene and think to himself, hold on, I know exactly what I can do here.
Yeah, it is an interesting one because like someone brought it up recently on one of the Facebook groups, this aphantasia thing. And I just kind of assume that everyone can like visualize things in their mind's eye just by simply closing your eyes and like seeing like a rainbow or an apple, that type of thing. And then me and B got talking and like
it blew your mind.
It just blew my mind because like we are total opposites. She had a nightmare and was like, well, what are you seeing in your nightmare? And it's just like, it's like an audio book. It's like someone saying, oh, it's coming to get you, B. Ooh. Rather than like actually seeing a picture of like something scary. She's just got like someone reading a scary book to her.
Well, so this isn't quite the same thing, but my wife and I are having this conversation with one of our friends. And it just so happens that when my wife is going around her daily thing, she's got a narrator in her head. She speaks to herself in her head. Like, oh, I'm going to go switch off the light. Oh, I'm going to do this. And there's like whereas I just go around doing stuff and there's no voice in my head. There's no narrator. Do you have a narrator?
No, I don't think so.
Or hear in her thoughts? Do you speak to yourself?
Sometimes, but not much.
Not
enough to be like, there's a narrator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys to say like, do you have like when you're going around your daily business, do you have like a narrator or do you speak to yourself like, oh, I need to take out the laundry. Oh, I'm doing the laundry now. Do you do that?
Yeah,
No,
I think I do. Yeah, like I'll be like, oh yeah,
Okay.
I quite fancy a cup of tea. Yeah, I'll go make a cup of tea now, and like, oh yeah, tuna sandwich for lunch. Yeah, go on, mate. So yeah, I do.
I don't. My brain is so full of mental load. I have no capacity for anything else other than the millions of jobs that I have to do.
Oh man, it's fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
The brains are fascinating.
It is fascinating. And what's fascinating about it is, like as photographers, there's all different types of photographer out there. So some photographers can't, like if I when I'm taking pictures, particularly portraits, I'll see like a composition. Let's say I'm in London, I'll see like, oh, like in the background there's like a line there and there's a building, like, and then I can imagine how the picture's going to look before I've taken it. So I can imagine my couple there, and then piece together the composition before I actually shoot it. Whereas a lot of photographers apparently can't. They just they can't visualize the finished product. So they do it based on like what feels right. I find that like really fascinating. I can't get my head around how you can create a picture unless you can see it first, but you can.
Yeah. I don't even know if this is possible, but I would love to have like a selection of people who think one way and think the other, and then compare similar images and see if there's a difference. I'm sure there is, but fascinating, man. Fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
You guys, you've obviously been in this industry for quite a while now and seen and tried lots of different marketing strategies. You mentioned that you do the SEO and you both have a hand in Instagram. Like what are you finding from the past and what now is working for you to find the clients that you're looking for and go to the destinations that you're looking for? Like what are you doing just now that's working?
I think it's still
SEO.
I think it's always going to be SEO for us. And I know that kind of goes against the grain of what is working for a lot of people at the moment, because I can see so many photographers doing so well on Instagram, and good for them. We don't tend to do as well on Instagram. And it's interesting because I was having this conversation with Sam Hurd. You know Sam Hurd?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was having a conversation with him about this because I did a workshop with him in London this year. And he's got a massive following, hasn't he, on Instagram? He's got like, 120,000 followers.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get any, he hardly gets any inquiries for weddings on Instagram. And it tends to be that his following is mainly other photographers around the world. Yeah. So we've got quite a good following as well. Not to that kind of level, but most of the people who follow us are photographers. So we don't tend to get many inquiries on Instagram from brides. But on the flip side, because I've always been like obsessive, like to like an unhealthy level when it comes to SEO. We've got lots of different pages that rank really well. So that drives around about 700 inquiries to our contact page every year.
We're about getting a lot of inquiries through, and our conversion rate is terrible, really, if you look at it. But we're about volume of inquiries, and from that, we actually managed to get the amount of bookings. If I went into the back end of our Studio Ninja, I think at the moment our breakdown is about 65 to 70% of inquiries are coming from SEO, and the rest is coming from Instagram referrals, word of mouth.
Yeah,
I think that's accurate, don't you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, but it's without the SEO there, we would struggle. So yeah, it's mainly SEO for us, which is a bit of a worry at the moment, because we do have to change websites, because we have a Flow Themes website. So that's another concern that we have to kind of change platforms soon, and you have to be quite careful with how you change, you transition things, just to kind of make sure you hold on to the SEO.
Yeah. Wait, did you guys rebrand? So this is just off the top of my head. I don't have this in my show notes, but Gregg was like, did they used to be the Crawleys?
We did.
This is a great story.
Were they? Yeah. So, right. Okay. Go for it.
It's a great
Remember when the pandemic hit? And,
oh boy, do I!
Oh God, that reminds us.
And the self-employed got financial help from the government, and limited companies did not really get any financial help from the government. We were a limited company. We did not get any financial help from the government, and so we had to sell our house. We relocated to Lancashire. We lived in Cheshire previously. And we had to liquidate our company. Yeah, it was no longer viable.
I am having recollections of this, because this is when I first contacted you guys to be on the podcast. It was around about that time. And I remember you mentioning needing to sell your house so we couldn't podcast.
Yeah.
Right enough. It's all coming back to me now. But sorry, continue your story.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's just sort of add to it. Because
if you liquidate your company, you can't use that name. So even though that is our surname, you are not legally allowed to use that name going forwards in any new business. And so we had to rebrand. And well, I mean, the only option we could think of was our names, you know. So that's what it was. Nice and easy.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what? It was at the time I was absolutely furious, because
you were not happy.
You know, it's like it's my family name, and you know we'd had that name for a long time, and people knew us like internationally as like the Crawleys as well. And I wasn't aware that was a rule of liquidation, and like we didn't take liquidation lightly. It was a very tough decision. It's because we didn't receive anything, because we were limited. We didn't get any grants.
We didn't know how long the pandemic was going to last for either. You know, it was just constantly rolling on. Like you'd have a couple of months where weddings were allowed, and you could have 15 people at a wedding, and then 30 people. But I mean, the business of our weddings, we are not 30 people weddings. Our business is like big weddings. And so because it kept on rolling on, it was like, how long can we like stick with this? How long can we make this work for? And we just had to make the call to be like, we can't. Like financially, it's just not viable. It can't go on.
And like being limited during that period, like did us no favors. I mean, it was horrendous how they treated certain companies, and we were part of these groups. What was it? The Forgotten Limited, and there was another one as well. So we were obviously in constant contact with them, and you know, sadly, like some people in some limited companies, directors, we'd heard stories of some of them taking their own lives because they were put in such a difficult position financially, and the stress as well. So it was a really tough time, and it's something that we didn't take lightly, but we had no choice, because we'd lost so much money through that limited company. It just wasn't viable anymore. So we took the decision to liquidate, which was a long drawn out process. And Section 16 of the Insolvency Act, you can't keep your business name. So that was a real bummer. But we've rebranded Liam and B, and we're back to where we were before. So all good.
You are no longer driving for Amazon, because that was, I mean, hellish.
During
the pandemic, Liam was a full-time Amazon driver.
I was.
Oh yeah. I bet you're happy this time of year that you're not doing that.
I certainly am. Do you know what? It gave me a new appreciation of of the jobs that we do. You know, you hear people talk about how tired you can get in our industry and wedding burnout, and yeah, that sort of thing does exist. But when you compare it to doing a 12-hour day in an Amazon van and having to kind of wee in plastic bottles in the back of your van, and
with no breaks for lunch,
and you walk away with less than minimum wage, and there's no union to kind of support these drivers, and it was just a horrendous experience. So it made me realize just how amazing our job is. And whenever I start feeling tired now as a wedding photographer, I always think, hang on a minute, you know, come on, remember how you felt when you were delivering those parcels. And yeah.
Well, Liam, you missed a business opportunity right then, because certain drivers were peeing in bottles and then selling that as a product. In fact, so much so that this is a real story. This is a real story. Amazon drivers were packaging and rebranding their pee, and it became so good that they were able to sell it on Amazon as a, I want to say,
what do you mean it became so good? Like, in what sense?
As in like how baller do you need to be to repackage piss and sell it under the category of an energy drink? Yeah.
Oh, all right.
On Amazon. I mean, that's baller. Come on.
It is. Anyway, I'm assuming like they're selling it to people who are potentially like, you know, massively into people like Bear Grylls, that type of person. That's the target market.
I mean, I just think it was like a commentary on working for Amazon. And so, you know, they were being forced to piss in bottles. So now Amazon, you're getting forced to sell our piss. So, I don't know.
So what happened with like couples that you were working with at that time of the rebrand? Did you have to sever all ties? Was that part of the liquidation, or were you able to like transition them to the new brand?
We had to write letters and get them to formally transfer their booking over to our new company.
Yeah. It was a complicated process. And it's quite difficult trying to remember exactly what was going on back then, because we were so because we had that going on, but also like having to kind of sell our house as well. It was like a forced sale basically, and so having to kind of like have that going on, and then like relocate to a brand new house, and then the house that we moved into was it was a shit tip basically. We had to renovate the whole thing ourselves. So everything's just a bit of a blur back then. But I don't know how we managed to stumble our way through it, but we did, didn't we?
We did. Got some PTSD, but we did.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. You made it.
Yeah.
Well done. You guys are hardcore.
Thank you.
Let's talk about how you structure your new business now in terms of like pricing. Because everyone prices their products differently. So I'm interested to hear, one, is it different, or did you just like carry the same structure from what you used to have to now, or did you have time to reassess how you wanted to package things up? And
we've tried a few different things over the years, haven't we? And especially in COVID times, we completely changed our pricing strategy so that we were just hourly pricing. That worked well for us because we booked a lot of micro weddings, a lot of smaller weddings. But then as the world started return to normal, we went back to our original pricing strategy, which is that we have 3 packages that vary from in hours, basically. That's about it.
Yeah. And it's an interesting discussion, actually, pricing.
It is really interesting.
Because we've had to be, like this year, for example, has been a very odd year in terms of like inquiries and bookings, and
so strange.
There seems to be a lot more couples out there now who are looking for much more cost-effective options. So we've had to be a bit more open to negotiation, and we've had to be a bit more kind of savvy with like inquiries that come through. Let's say if they come through it's on a weekday, we've been open to offer discounts for that, and that, like, we've managed to get ourselves to a position now where we're looking good for next year. But like in July this year, we only had like 9 weddings booked in, which was for us bad.
So we started off the year, we were in South Africa, and I remember being like going onto Facebook and everyone in groups being panicked because the normal surge of inquiries post-Christmas just wasn't there. And we couldn't understand because we were in South Africa and we'd booked a wedding every single day. We'd started off really well. We were like, well, what's going on here then? We were a little bit smug. And as the year went on, we got to about April. Was it April?
Mm-hmm.
And the bookings just dried up and it went on and on and on to the point where we were genuinely really very concerned. It had got to a point where it wasn't just, oh, this is a minor blip. This was a big problem. So we really had to go on a big push, didn't we, to try and get the problem sorted.
We did.
And we went from having 9 weddings booked in July to now we have 29 for next year, is it?
29 for next year,
yeah.
So we're much better position. And it wasn't for the lack of inquiries. The inquiries were still there, as they always have been with us. Like we get like daily inquiries, so they were still coming in. It was just the level of like ghosting and the level of just hearing nothing back, or whenever we did chase people up, because that's not something I usually do. I don't usually chase people up, but I thought, well, I'm going to start doing it to see what's going on here because something doesn't seem right. So I started like chasing people up, and then most people wouldn't get back to the chase up, but the people who did, it always came down to price. And this is all something new that we're having to experience now in the wedding industry. And I get it, because obviously prices have gone up, the cost of living, honestly, like that phrase just does my head in. It's become a bit of a common phrase that we all kind of hear now, but it's here, isn't it? Things have gone up, prices have gone up. People are more concerned about their finances, and like our products, like the products that we sell are a luxury. They're not a necessity, are they? You don't need to get married if things are tight financially, people can put it off. So, and then there's been the rise of the editorial style in the wedding industry as well, which is obviously something that's having its
industry a bit, hasn't it?
Having its day at the moment. This rise of the editorial style. So that combined with like lots of cheaper photographers and then the cost of living all kind of went against us, and we had this period where we were still getting this flood of inquiries, but no work. And it was like, wow, like after 20 years in the industry, I've never seen anything like this.
But this was it. We knew that people liked our photography because the inquiries were there, but it was identifying where things were going wrong. And it appeared it was just pricing where things were going wrong. So we decided that we had a cutoff date, that if we didn't have a set number of bookings by that date, we were going to implode the pricing, just reduce it drastically, because our business is supporting both of us as well.
Yeah.
We don't have any other form of income. This is it. So we have to have a certain amount of weddings for next year in order to get by.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it got to that date and we were fine and we didn't have to change our pricing.
No, it's things just came alive about a couple of months.
September, October time.
Yeah, and then people started to book us again. And now we're back to a level where we should be for next year. And
but it used to be that in the industry there was there was like a wave of like, you knew when things were coming. The inquiry season, when it was quiet, like summer holidays, no one ever booked normally. And then you'd have like the post-Christmas rush. Nowadays, you can't call anything. Everything has been turned upside down on its head since COVID. And it is impossible now to try and call what's going on.
Yeah.
You just got to ride with it.
Yeah. Interestingly, like our mates, Pete and Laura Lawsons, they went during that period where we were struggling.
They were doing really well.
They were doing really well. And like, so obviously they're videographers and at a pretty, like quite a high price point as well. And they were doing like, well, so I don't think it really affected the video market. How's it? Have you guys found it for next year? You're looking decent.
I mean, it's funny the way that photographers describe the method of like when they get bookings, because I feel like from a video point of view, we're kind of used to the way that people, like the way that you're describing is the way that people normally book video, like because it's the last thing on their list, and there's always a little bit of a delay, and sometimes we'll get bookings in like a really short period of time, whereas photographers are usually, they can normally see their year fully, a year in advance almost.
Yeah, like we go into a year with the ones who are like eager to book and they know they want video, they know they've got the budget and they book it. And that's the ones that sort of prop the calendar up to begin with. And then as we go into the year, the later ones go, oh, you know what? Let's find the budget to get a video.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of rejections because of the price point we're at. They're like, oh, I thought I could afford video, but maybe I can't. And it's disheartening because you go, oh no, that's like, do we hold firm on price here? What do we do? And then you get a couple who are just like, yep, we'll book, done. And their wedding's in like 3 months' time because they've got the budget. It's not a big thing for them. And it's just about holding strong to like what we value ourselves as and knowing that those bookings will come eventually.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever, have we ever gone through a period where people have asked us to reduce our prices and we've gone, yeah?
No.
I think we've always just held firm.
Yeah.
With the cocksure of ourselves mentality, like we are this good. If you don't see it, you will.
But there's definitely times where you're getting the emails and nothing's converting. You're like, I'm doubting myself here. I'm doubting it.
Yeah.
And then it just takes, as you said, like a couple of bookings to come in and you go, all right, okay, we're all right. This is validating what we're charging here.
Yeah,
that's exactly how we normally feel. But then when we had this 6-month period of dryness, it was just like, oh shit, are we fucked? Is this it?
You can easily go down that kind of mindset, can you? Like it's so easy to be like, oh my goodness, things have changed, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to expect. So you do end up panicking. Yeah, I listened to one of your podcast episodes yesterday on my walk to the car, and it was about. You were talking about the deposit and payment, how some people do payment plans. And I was like, like we do that sort of. Like we do 25% deposit, further 50% a couple of weeks before the wedding, and then the remaining 25% sort of after the wedding. So we're spreading it for the couple. And it also spreads the cash flow for us as well. So it means like at this time of year, all the weddings that we shot in the summer, we're starting to deliver those weddings and they're paying their final 25%.
That is really interesting.
It's something that it helps us on the cash flow end, but also helps the couple on the selling end because it's like, oh, you know, we'll spread the cost for you and you can save up for each payment and there's a little left after the wedding and like, oh, thank God, because like everybody's asking me for money the month before the wedding, so it's good that I can save some for later. So
that's good. Yeah, do you guys like withhold the footage until they're paid, or do you provide the footage first and then they pay? We
deliver like the highlights. So like they get a 2 to 5 minute highlight film. If it's a full wedding, they get a 2 to 5 minute highlight film. So we'll send that out and say, here's this. We're in the process of building your final gallery, which means your final payment's due as well. So we then don't release the full gallery until they've paid the final balance.
Yeah. And I feel like, no, remind me if I'm wrong, that came about because one couple, they got through the net of this of our system, and we didn't realize this until a year later. And they're like, hang on, guys, you've got everything, but you didn't actually pay us. We were speaking to the accountant, and they were like, "There's a bad debt here. Like, who's this, and why have they still got?" And it was a small amount of money, but it was like, why have they still got a debt to pay? Yeah, and we're like, oh, I was like, what the fuck? And I looked back, and I was like, they never paid their final balance. And I was just too confident I would send out the films at that point. Yeah. So I learned from that mistake and went, okay, I need to make sure we have the money before we release the full footage, because otherwise they're not going to try and chase us up to pay us.
I really like that way of doing things.
Definitely, yeah. Do you guys use like Studio Ninja or something similar?
Yeah, we use Octoa. It's a guy called Remy who runs Maru Films. He started this CRM, so we use that.
Yes, cool. It's been working pretty well. Yeah. So if anyone's out there, if they have any questions about this, hit us up, because we've had a few people in the past looking for CRMs, and there's pros and cons, and so if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up. Obviously, I didn't listen to the podcast. I try not to listen to podcasts because I don't like to. If I'm making the podcast notes, I don't want to be like asking similar questions. So I'll probably go back and listen to it. So where can I go and listen to your podcast, guys? And for all of our listeners, where can they go and listen to your podcast?
Our podcast is called Our Creative Commune, and you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you normally listen.
Acast, is it?
Yeah.
Acast.
Yeah. Through the Acast.
Yeah, and it's just general bants, it's a mixture between.
So it's us and the Lawsons. So they are videography couple, obviously. We're photography couple. We live in the same village. We are best friends. We see each other every day because our kids go to school together. And so we thought to ourselves, why not record ourselves while we're having our morning coffee? And it's a very relaxed podcast, isn't it? There's
very chill.
Maybe a bit TMI in there.
Always.
But we do talk about weekly goings on in the wedding industry as well. So there's always topics of conversation where we're covering what's been going down that week.
Yeah. And our Lawsons live down the road. We're pretty much inseparable. Johnny MP thinks that we're swingers with them, but it's not. True. Nothing's happening like that.
Oh God!
I mean, I'm definitely clipping that for social media.
He's convinced he is. He's like, I'm convinced, guys. I know what's going on with you and the Lawsons. But yeah.
Oh my God! All right. Well. And since they're not here to defend themselves, we'll move on. We'll move on from this. You mentioned the editorials having a bit of a thing and obviously affecting your business. Can you describe your style in a way that you might do to a couple booking?
Yeah, it's I guess I'm probably more well known for my creative approach to particularly like my portraits. And I guess it sort of comes down to personality. I've always said this as a wedding photographer, you need to take pictures that connect with your personality, which I know is kind of like goes against the grain of what some people might think. Some people might think, well, I need to be taking pictures that my clients are going to love first and foremost. Now that is obviously important, but what I've always done from an early part of my career is to create pictures that resonate with me as a person. So you'll see quite a lot of like minimal compositions with me, and that just sort of like suits my personality. I love the great outdoors. So if I'm like say on the Isle of Skye or Glencoe, those types of environments, like I'm in my element there, and I just love kind of being in those spaces. And when I see photographs that I've taken in those spaces, I get a real kind of pleasure from them. So I've always taken pictures that when I look at them, they make me happy. And the more I've done that, it starts to kind of attract people of a sort of similar mindset to me. So, the pictures are resonating with my couples, but also resonating with me as well. So it's a combination of those two things. That's the best way I can describe my style. And that's why I've not kind of like, I don't tend to kind of follow any of the current trends that are in the wedding industry. And I know people are kind of jumping on the bandwagon of the editorial style at the moment, but I've always just kind of shopped. But for me, and in doing so, it's, I kind of like, it attracts my tribe.
Yeah. The thing is, there are always trends within the wedding industry as well. This one seems to have really taken a strong hold, but I do think it's important that you remain true to yourself and take photos that excite you, because it's so easy. I mean, there's different ways of doing it, isn't there? You can be a purely in it, like business minded, just profit first. And it's not so much about the art. Whereas I know for Liam, it's definitely about the art, and it's part of him and his soul is put into the photos. So for us, we're more that kind of side of things rather than it being business. We could probably benefit from having more of the business side of things.
Well, I don't know. I think you just need to be, just if you want to be like longevity in our industry, you need to have a style that you're going to be excited about. So every time I go to a wedding now, even though I've done like over 1,000 weddings, I still get excited to go to my next wedding because I've always got like these kind of ideas in my mind that I want to try and implement, and I want to try and walk away from every wedding that I shoot with something different to what I've shot before. It doesn't have to be like loads of different pictures, but if I can walk away from an engagement shoot or a wedding with something that is new, and it excites me to kind of go to my next wedding. So I think if you want to remain happy as a photographer or a videographer going forward, you need to be kind of listening to the beat of your own drum rather than being too heavily influenced by like a current fad or a trend.
Yeah. It was interesting when you were talking about shooting in Glencoe, shooting in Skye, because like if I like think to your work, I think of like sun and like the big weddings and like thinking international weddings, right? So just out of interest, I was doing some Google, great SEO, by the way, great SEO here. Very easily found Scottish wedding photographer. Fantastic. Just to see what images you would create in a cold, wet environment compared to what I had thought. Yeah, and it's interesting because there are very similar, like there are elements that are similar to the way that you would shoot in the sun and the sand and the sea to how you've shot in the mountains and the lochs and the lakes. And obviously when I go through your gallery, like there's humor, they're very creative. You focus on the emotion as well. Like how are these elements able to create like a coherent brand, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question, because like some people might look at our portfolio and think,
jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, like it's a bit of a mishmash, I guess.
I think the branding comes from us, who we are as people, and all of those things that you just described are us, and that comes out through our photos. And so we can be all of those things, and they can be represented in our photos because our personality is coming through in them.
Yeah, I think people who book us as well, they don't just book us purely for like the creative stuff. That's only it's only a small part of what I do on the wedding day.
Yeah.
So people who book us now, they like, because we get so many like great comments when we get our emails through from couples, and like they're always like, I'm so excited that I found you guys, and it's just like really something refreshing. And whenever I talk to our couples, they do want a few classic portraits as well. They want all the kind of candid documentary stuff, but they're also excited by the fact that I can give them something fun, something creative as well. So they're the types of couples that we attract. And some people might look at our portfolio and think, well, who are you? You haven't really got like a coherent style here. It's all over the place. And that's fine. It works because it does attract people who want a bit of variation in their photography.
I think it's super interesting as well, because I think that if you went into any photographer's like full gallery, you could probably pull like 5 sets of different images that would represent that photographer in a totally different way. You could pull like 10 documentary images. You could pull 10 very traditional images. You could pull 10 more creative images. And you could just sell yourself in that way. Like if you think about it, a wedding, it's impossible, I think, to be entirely creative. I just don't know how you would shoot like a wedding ceremony or group shots, if you're trying to be totally creative.
Yeah. I think in doing so, like you're really narrowing your market as well. I just think to have like a varied portfolio, it just sort of spreads your wings nice and wide, and that's why we do get so many people who are interested in our work. Whereas if we were too niche and we went purely down the sort of, let's say the humor, when I went through a phase of like really enjoying just like loads of humor in my work, and we started showing more of that on our website, and that's quite a narrow market. So having like a varied portfolio does attract like a lot of.
I think for some people a niche is the greatest thing and works really, really well, but for us, because we need a certain amount of weddings, we have to be a bit more open to showing and covering all different styles.
I do want to talk a little bit more about how you shoot and what you like to shoot, but before I do, I've actually forgotten to do the housekeeping, which is the if you like this perspective content, you can join us on YouTube at youtube.com/@perspective by Cinemate. Support us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
Now,
have you drank all that coffee already?
My God.
Nearly.
You found all that coffee?
Nearly.
Yeah, I've had quite a lot of coffee. So let's talk about the things that you like to shoot. Because obviously I mentioned the different elements. Because there is a similar, especially the images that I pulled up on your Scottish-wedding-photographer page. There are certain compositions that you like to get. So do you have like a list of shots that you have in your head when you go? Like, do you have like I got to get this shot before I leave this wedding type view?
No, I just kind of like go in with no real plan. I just kind of go in and then just shoot like how I feel on the day. Okay. And then you've probably been looking at, if you're looking at the sort of Scottish page, I'm glad that you found that actually. Did you Google Scottish wedding photography, did you?
What did I Google? I can't remember.
It doesn't rank very well,
Scotland.
That page, actually.
That's Liam B. Scotland is what I Google.
Yeah, it's one of the pages that I can't seem to kind of get Google to kind of enjoy it. This is, I've spent a lot of time on that, but it's like, no, sorry, Liam, we can't rank you for Scotland. And it's almost like it's kind of keeping it for you guys rather than like having this Englishman sort of roll in and start shooting in Scotland. It's like, no, stay south of the border.
So. This is our country, Liam.
Pete and Laura come up enough. We can't have two couples coming up.
But you might have seen like on those pictures. I actually did landscape photography at university, so I specialize in landscapes. And so I get like a real kind of joy out of trying to create simplicity from the landscape. And that's like a reflection of my kind of character as well. So I quite like, let's say I'm in the house and I wanted to kind of push everything to the side to make it all nice and kind of clear and sort of there's like a few elements to look at rather than like loads of different things to look at. Like at the moment we're sat down, there's a microphone there, there's a cup here, there's some wrapping paper here, there's too much stuff going on for my brain. So I like to kind of like shove everything to the side. So it's just like a few elements that I'm looking at, and that makes me kind of more at kind of peace as a person. And the same thing applies when I'm doing my photography. So when I'm looking at, like, let's say I'm on the Isle of Skye and like there's a mountain in the background, there's like a stream, I've got my bride and groom, there's a tree. I'm like, okay, there's lots of things like going on here and my eyes dancing all over the place. How can I frame this so that there's just a couple of elements that work within the frame so that when we see it as an image, my eye's not all over the place. It's got a nice flow to it. So that's kind of like just me bringing my kind of weird personality out in my photography.
And my editing is very simplistic. I know that Liam will not want lots of clutter in images. And so I spend a lot of time either cropping down or getting rid of things out of images so that it can be as simplistic and compositional as it can be.
Yeah. Hopefully you're not still on the Photoshop.
No, although I do love a bit of generative fill.
Oh, that new tool.
Oh my God.
It's all that, isn't it?
Isn't it crazy? It is crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Love that. Especially because we do quite a lot of London engagement shoots. And of course, there are a lot of people in the background of photos. So, a lot of time is spent removing people from images.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
With like the cropping and stuff, have you been working together for so long that it's just instinctive? Liam has left this frame as it is, but he actually wants it cropped like this. Like, do you just know that now?
Also, my argument occasionally is when Liam comes and hovers over me and he's like, I kind of wanted it to be cropped like this. I'm like, well, you should have taken it like that, shouldn't you?
Brutal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I tend not to, like, if B's editing now, I'm like, oh, she's editing, leave her alone. All right, do you want a cup of tea? But I won't go too close. She's in her zone. And this did crop up quite a lot where I'm like, I took this with the intention of like cropping it in post, and she's like, well, you should have done it in camera, Liam. But that I do that more often now because I've started to shoot more with this zoom lens now. I've got the 28 to 70 f2 Canon RF, a beast of a lens, and it does allow me to crop in camera now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
So she's much happier.
Can you think of any examples or any images that you've taken, you've created, and Bees then cropped and made it completely different, but like changed it for the better, and you've been like, oh, I should have done that? Like, is there any obvious examples of that?
Yeah. That happens quite a lot, actually. It does happen quite a lot where she'll do something to an image, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't the intention, but I like it, and it's I don't know what the words are to explain that. It's
You're just saying I'm a creative genius. Is that it? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Maybe we can swap roles for a bit. I mean, what would happen to our business if we swapped over? Would we be okay, or would it go to total shit?
I don't think I can go to weddings wearing pajamas. I'm just going to put it out there.
No.
Excuse me? What?
I sit on
What
the
is this
sofa.
story?
I sit in the sofa like in my pajamas and just edit. That's.
She does.
All right.
I have a heated blanket.
I seriously thought you were going to say that Liam one time went to a wedding in his pajamas.
Oh, God.
No.
Guys, I thought. You need to try this out. This could be the next thing.
Well, maybe we should all do it. It sounds great.
Yeah.
It does sound good.
So you mentioned the 2870 there. What kit are you using? So you're obviously a Canon shooter.
Yeah.
What's in your kit bag?
Yeah, very minimal. And me and Pete discussed this on our recent podcast. I'm not really one of these people who geeks out on equipment, and I just kind of know what works for me. I like to talk about equipment. You know, I do like to geek out, but I won't go and buy things unnecessarily. Is that true, isn't it?
It's very clear.
I mean, he does have minimal kit, but you like buying lenses. Come on.
I mean, I do, but only if it's necessary. So the last lens I bought was that 2870 f2.
Yeah, true.
And I shoot most of my stuff on that now, albeit it's very heavy, and I'm starting to sway back towards my 35mm 1.4. So I've always been Canon. I'm on the R6 at the moment. Amazing camera. Can't ever see a reason really to change that camera, because it's almost like it's for a wedding photographer, it's pretty much faultless. I know there's you can get the R3 and there's the R5 out there too, but the R6 for me, amazing in low light, because obviously it's less megapixels, so you're going to get better performance in low light situations. The focus doesn't let me down. It's absolutely bob on. Files aren't massively big, so perfect for wedding photographs. And I can never see a reason why I'd need another camera apart from that R6. And similarly with the lenses that I use, heavy into the zoom lens, and then I've got 50mm 1.2, 35mm 1.4, which I absolutely love. And so the equipment that I've got doesn't let me down. It works for me. And I can't really think of anything that I'd like to buy. Potentially, if Canon, I do hear rumors about the 35mm 1.2 in the RF range. I mean, that's going to be a bit of a beast of a lens. So that's something I've thought about. But yeah, and equipment wise, when you find out what works for you, it's easy to be kind of tempted by, splashing the cash on stuff just because it's new and it's come out. But I've never really been like that. I've still got some triggers in my bag that trigger my flash guns, whereas most people now have flash guns with inbuilt receivers in them. I've still got these old triggers that trigger my flash guns because it works, and I can't really see a reason to change.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, if it works for you, and you know how it works, and more importantly, you know how that tech works.
Yeah.
Then
yeah,
why bother changing? Absolutely.
Indeed.
You forgot to mention that you've got your drone and your underwater housing as well.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So drone,
just small bits.
We are going to talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative. I
want to talk about your approach to a wedding day. And I know every wedding day is kind of different, but it does have similar elements, and we can kind of approach it in the same way. So walk us through how you would approach a wedding day right from the start. And go, like, you don't need to talk about how you've built clients, how you've managed your relationships with your clients. Just start right at the day. You're in the morning before preps.
Yeah. Cool. Good question. It's a good question. And I'll try and condense it without rambling on like for too long, because I do tend to waffle about this sort of stuff. Like, I think the best way to describe like how I approach a wedding day is that I'm actually quite hands-on with how the day sort of flows. So I'm not a purist sort of documentary photographer who will sit in the background and just not interact with the flow of the day. I like to kind of have an input in how things would flow. So, for example, during bridal prep, for me, that's kind of like being a male photographer. You're going into a situation where it can maybe feel a little bit intimidating for the people who are there. So, and it could also sometimes feel quite strange for, let's say, she's getting ready in her parents' house. It can feel odd to parents of older generations when, videographers and photographers are there in their kind of intimate spaces. And I get that. So I always make an effort to talk to people and interact with people. So when I arrive to shoot bridal prep, I always get there 3 hours before the ceremony. And that's intentional because it means, and I don't need to start shooting straight away. I've got that free time during the beginning to sort of win them over. So I'll just sit down and talk to them about what they did last night and what plans they've got for like the honeymoon, what you're having for your first dance. I'll make some like nice compliments on the house. I'll make an effort to talk to everyone that's there so that and instantly I've got them on my side. They know that I'm harmless and I'm fun. And that means then I can then pull out my camera and start to get those natural shots down, because I know that I've got license to kind of get quite close to the action. So that's kind of like how I approach most of the day. Is I make an effort to talk to people, interact with people. And then there's certain shots that I'll have a part to play in, that the resulting images are always going to be natural, but I've kind of like manufactured the beginning of this kind of scene, but the resulting images are always natural. So for example, father of the bride seeing bride in the dress for the first time. So I'll be taking pictures of the bride getting ready. And during that time, again, I'll kind of guide them to good light. So if they're getting ready in the middle of the room and the light's terrible, I'll be like, guys, let's just bring Rachel to the window here. Rachel, just twist this way a little bit. Okay, guys, all good, crack on. So I know she's in good light. Resulting images are natural, but I've had a part to play in it. And then I'll always make sure that father of the bride is close by. He may be hanging around outside the door. I'll give him the heads up and say, Jim, in a minute, you're going to hear me say, come in, mate. You're going to see your daughter in the dress. It's going to be really lovely. And so I'm always there kind of tinkering in the background, helping things flow during the day. But then the actual pictures that are created are always very natural. It's just that I've kind of used my experience and knowledge to sort of guide people to where that I need them to be. And that's pretty much how I approach a wedding day. It's quite hands-on like that. And I think it's up to us to kind of use our experience and our knowledge, because we've done this many, many times. We know how weddings flow, whereas like this is going to be the first time for many people, so they don't know.
You're very vocal, aren't you, at weddings?
Do you have because obviously, well, the preps are kind of an interesting part of the day, because you do have a little bit more control than you would do at kind of any other point other than the couple shoot. So like when it's the ceremony, when it's the drink reception, where you don't have that control, what's your approach then?
Yeah, cool. Good questions again. So for example, drinks reception, this as a wedding photographer can be a tricky part of the day, because there's not always that banter, is there? There's not always that energy. And so, like this is only this is one of the small parts of the day where it's an opportunity for us to get natural shots of the guests. And sometimes you can be bobbing around and there can be like a formal tone, or people have not really kind of settled into the day yet, not had enough to drink. So it can be quite flat sometimes, can't it? So if that's the case, I'll I'll approach groups of people with a wider angle, like a 35 mil. I'll approach groups of people. Sometimes with my camera high up in the sky like this. I'm like, guys, how's it going? How's it going? Yeah, go on, mate, give her a cuddle. Like, put your arm around her. Go on, give her a cuddle. And like, I'll do it with a smile on my face. And I know it sounds a bit kind of awkward, this, but and I'll do it with a bit more kind of vigor and energy. Having this kind of like energy about me and banter creates reactions from people, and it manufactures a moment, I guess. But people find it quite funny. I mean, I'm no comedian, but it does seem to work, this approach, just to kind of almost drag out a little bit of energy from people doing it that way. Because otherwise, like if I don't have that approach, sometimes I'll have like drinks receptions where I've probably not got anything that's usable because it's being quite formal.
Yeah. I like that approach. Like, definitely, like as you were saying that, I was just imagining how I would react, and I just would be like, you'd sort of laugh at the person, then you'd do whatever they were saying, like hug the person. So I can see that working.
It does. It doesn't
quite often.
Sometimes you get something up. Sometimes you're like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Okay, I'll try again later."
Like, or if I was doing video, I'm usually the one getting more of the drinks reception stuff, I guess. Or especially at the last wedding, I definitely was. And there's definitely times where, because it's video, you have to hold the shot for slightly longer, and it's like you're running the risk of them catching your eye, and then either that breaks the fourth wall, is it? Yeah, the fourth wall, or it gets some good interaction with the camera, and sometimes it works, but other times it's like that just killed that shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I was just going to say for our listeners who don't know what the fourth wall is, it's basically, I don't know if it's a photographer term, but it's a cinematic term, which essentially means that people are not directly looking straight at you as the viewer. So if in the real world, it would be someone looking down the lens, but because you're the viewer of the film, they're looking right at you, essentially. So, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and like having like mirrorless cameras, it has enabled us to have that kind of connection with. I don't really like shooting like I don't like shooting by using the screen for most of the day. I like shooting like this. It just looks bigger, and like I can see my compositions a bit better if I'm like that. But if I'm doing those shots I was discussing then, while I'm approaching people, I would have my face on display so that people can kind of see my smile and like my reaction. They can see that I'm not a threat, and that always helps in getting those sort of shots as well.
Yeah. So you'd go up to them and then get them to do whatever you're going to do, then put your camera up to the face, like to take the photograph, or
I'll just be like that. Like we can do it with you guys now. So I'm like, imagine you're at a wedding, yeah. Get your champagne.
Come on.
Yeah. And I'm
what do
like,
we do?
All right, Greg. All right, Sam. Having a good day, guys. Having a good day. Yeah, give him a cuddle, mate. Go on, give him a cuddle. Put your arm around him. Go on. There you go. Give him a kiss.
No.
So I just kind of like float around like that. But with that kind of approach, it's key not to be too full on, because if you keep on, if I kept on with that, I'd be like, this dickhead again. Honestly, we've had enough of him. but to kind of like have a little bit of it, it's useful because you can then create like these pictures full of laughter and emotion and do it quite quickly.
And I think that's important in our full set of images. For me personally, when I'm going through culling, any image where it's just someone stood there with a glass of champagne looking a bit kind of caught in the moment, bored, it's like, no, I don't want that. I want the ones where people are showing emotion of some sort, any form of emotion. That's what I want, whether it's forced by Liam or natural. They're the ones that are going to stay in our full set.
Yeah. And I don't see it as kind of breaking the rules of documentary. I feel like we're integral parts of the day. I think the photographer is an important part, as the videographer is. We're important characters on the day. So it's not like we're it's not like we're kind of, breaking the rules of documentary. I think we have license to kind of get involved and enjoy the banter and become part of the fabric of the day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. B, do you ever find that, if Liam's gone click, 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 click through all these moments, that it's usually almost the people's reaction to the awkwardness of the moment that you like to capture? Because obviously there's that kind of like realization that maybe Liam's asked them to do something daft, like how they were Gregg. I'm like, no, like there's that kind of like
It's funny. It always seems just like a genuine emotion. It doesn't seem like forced or awkward. I mean, obviously, occasionally, sometimes people do, but on the whole, it's just genuinely people thinking, he's lovely. Look at this guy.
He's lovely.
It doesn't always work, guys. I mean, most of the weddings it works, but sometimes I'm booked for like, a fancy wedding in the Savoy where it's like, who the bloody hell is this northern monkey trying to get us to have a hug?
Oh, man.
So are you, like, Liam, you're obviously the photographer in this partnership. Like, are you always shooting solo? And do you have any concerns or did you have concerns back in the day about getting all the shots? Like, I've got to do loads of groups and I'm missing out on drink reception or details. I'm assuming those worries have maybe tailed off as you've been in the industry for a while, but
yeah.
How's that?
It's, and I don't tend to worry about that anymore. Like, when I first started, it was a concern, but because I've done this for such a long time now, I just kind of have like my processes in my mind. And I just kind of see a wedding day like a series of photo shoots that need to tick each one off, don't you, as you go along. So I don't approach a wedding like one big photo shoot, because that's quite overwhelming and daunting. I approach it as like, okay, let's just get bridal prep done, tick that off. You get to the ceremony then, I'm like, what's next? Okay, got to make sure I've got shots of like groom greeting friends and family. Got to make sure I'm outside the church then 10 minutes before the bride arrives. So I've always got this kind of thing going on in my brain where I need to be at certain points of the day. And that's just obviously come from experience, and it does seem to work. And even if I've got like a second shooter with me, which I sometimes do, depends on the wedding. So if I'm doing like a big Jewish wedding or a big Indian wedding where there's like 300 people, then I'll have a second shooter for that. But I'll always find myself taking on the responsibility to still do the group shots, to still make sure I get lots of candid stuff, to do the portraits. Whereas like I find it quite hard relinquishing some of that towards my second shooters. It's just the way like I like it. And, it's nice having a second body there sometimes, but I'll always make sure that I'm doing their job as well.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. I think I would panic if I wasn't having that same approach as well. Like, I know you have to have faith in your second, but anyway, you are known for a set of specific shots, and you kind of mentioned your drone and then your underwater housing. I always, whenever I think about like specific shots for a photographer, I feel like it's like a band that has like a number one single. It's like, it might be like 20 years old, but they still have to play the song. Do you feel at weddings that you have to play the song? You have to get the drone shot. You have to get the underwater housing shot.
That's a solid question, mate. And I don't think it applies anymore to a specific type of shot like the drone imagery. Because do you know what? I don't actually shoot that much with the drone anymore. Yeah. I don't think last year I produced one of those pictures at a wedding, and that's not to say it's all a lie. I mean, they're still there. They're still part of our portfolio, but I think people are. There's expectations for creativity from me. I think if people book me as a photographer, they're doing so because they can see that I've got a different sort of eye when it comes to how I portray my couples. So I think there's an expectation for that. But it's been a while since you've had someone who's like, Liam, we really like your drone imagery. Can we make sure we get one of those? When was the last time someone said that?
Can't remember. I think it became too popular within the industry, and as soon as it did, you were like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, like the first drone image that I did, I think it was 2012, was it? Or?
It was around when Betty was born, so 2013 maybe.
Yeah, and back then it was like drones were a thing, but I don't think they weren't being used in the wedding industry.
You were the first person that I am aware of that ever used a drone at a wedding.
Yeah, I mean, there's no proof in that, but back then, like I couldn't see anyone else, like even internationally.
I can't really think of anybody doing them for stills back then.
Stills,
unheard of.
That's it. And like I've always been like thinking of like new ways, new interesting perspectives in photography. And I was just lying in bed one night. I thought it'd be really cool if you could like have a camera like hovering over a couple who were like lying down in a tennis court or something like that, or in a car park where you could play around with some of the lines there and create some really interesting concepts that way. Mm-hmm. And then I poked around, and obviously there's DJI, which are the big players now in the drone industry. And I think they were still the leaders back then, but it was the first drone I got was what was it called? The Phantom 2 Vision Plus or something like that. It was a big drone. Yeah, it was a beast. It came in a big plastic box. Yeah. Yeah, and it was, back then you could you'd wait for ages. Oh, I've got one satellite. Oh, I've got two. Oh, I've got three. I've got five. I can fly it, and like you go up, you'd lose a satellite. It'd start to drift away, wouldn't it? Oh. And I remember like a wedding that I was on, I pitched this idea to my bride and groom and the bridesmaids. I said, all right, just work with me on this. We went outside. I said, all right, we're in a car park. See these lines on the floor here. I'm going to get you all stood on these lines here. And then we're going to make it look like the bride's throwing the bouquet. And they were all like looking at me thinking, like scratching their heads thinking, what are you talking about? It's like, just go with it, like flow with me. So I had the bridal party all lying down, the bride on the floor. They thought it was hilarious. It was a Scouse wedding. So they just thought it was like the funniest thing that they've ever seen. And like since then, it just kind of like snowballed. And when I started putting those pictures out back then, it created a real kind of interest in our industry because it was such an unusual thing to see back then. It was a really interesting and different perspective that wasn't being used in the wedding industry. So I guess I got this reputation as like the drone man from that. But yeah, as the years have gone on, more and more people have adopted the similar kind of style, which is cool to inspire people. I'm great that I've inspired people to kind of try out new things as well, but it's become less exciting to me now. So I'm always looking at, that's why I got the underwater housing, because it was something different that no one else was doing at the time. And that was something that, really took off about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, was it? Maybe a bit more?
I can't remember.
No, 2015. How many years ago is that? It's more than 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah. Greg, get the image up. You forget, come on. What? Get better.
Get better.
It says on the notes, get the image up on the TV.
What are we bringing up?
It's just one of your drone shots that we were supposed to be talking about this while we had one of your drone shots in the back.
Okay.
So that our YouTube audience could see what you're talking about.
Yes.
And obviously we've got the show and tell, section at the end of the podcast. So we're not going to talk too much about your specific drone stuff, but can you run us through this image? Just your thought process, because obviously on your website, and people can see more of your drone stuff on your website. You do still have your Game of Drones page, which I always like a good pun. And there was a number of shots, and obviously this is one of them. So talk about this image.
Okay, so this is obviously a bride and groom. They're lying down on the floor. It's in a tennis court. This is actually at Heads House, which for those people who have worked at Heads House, many people are probably thinking now, is there a tennis court at Heads House? It's a very fancy, posh venue in the south of England, and it's very well known for
TV
programs. There's been lots of films there. It's very grand.
Harry Potter.
I don't think Harry Potter. No, I think
that's weird.
Brad Pitt's been there for something. Yeah, when you go to the toilets in Heads of House, and you stood there, doing your business. There's all these posters on the wall for like various films that have been filmed there. So it's very well known for that. And so I guess like having creating this type of picture at Heads of House is kind of a bit quite juxtaposed to what you would expect from such an amazing venue. And it's just me bringing out my humor in my work. And these guys obviously booked me because they knew about my creative approach. I'd already pitched this idea to them. They were keen on it. And so, yeah, it's a reflection of their personality as well as my personality.
I've removed loads of stuff from this photo, and I put an alien skin light leaf over it. So Liam's in the original of this. Liam's there flying his drone, and there's a couple of guests all stood around.
I know.
So I've taken all of those out. I've brought the blacks way down so that the tennis court itself goes darker. And then, I put an alien skin light leak over the top to make it even more mad.
Yeah, I mean, initially I've got to get down on the floor and demonstrate to these guys how I need them to be. And then they'll then follow suit. And I love humor in wedding photography. Like, for me, it doesn't have to be about, just showing a couple madly in love. There can be other aspects to the couple's personalities that we can bring through in our pictures. And there's always the humor element. Like there's always the fun that a couple have between themselves that we can bring out in the pictures too, rather than like feeling that we need to force our couples in these romantic poses all the time. We don't have to. We can have fun and do stuff like this.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, so you mentioned that you started off with your drone and you're like, nah, it's done to death. I want to get wet. And then you started creating images like this.
I did.
which is actually, now that I think about it, it kind of looks like the frame of a horror movie. If it was, because you've got some two dark figures up here and they're looking at you drowning clearly.
I was drowning in this picture, yeah.
Oh God, were you actually?
I was. This is one of my favorite photographs. I think it still is actually my favorite photograph that I've ever taken that you picked there. And the reason why I started doing these pictures is I had a wedding in Thailand in 2015, and I had a vision in my mind back then. It's like, ooh, I'm in Thailand, like crystal clear oceans. I want to get a picture of like the bride and groom in the sea, and I want the bride to be on like a paddleboard, and I want the groom like swimming up towards her in these like crystal clear Thai oceans. So I bought this
sandwich
bag for a camera. It's like you can get them off Amazon for about 50 quid, and you put your camera inside them, and it's the actual lens bit can accommodate a 70 to 200. So you have to kind of concertina it up. You can put your finger through and you can't change the settings. All you've got is like shoot. And I remember on this wedding, like we were in Krabi and it was like monsoon season. It was chucking it down with rain. And I'm sat in my room overlooking the beach. And I'm wondering what's going to happen? Like this is like 2 days before the wedding. I'm supposed to be taking pictures of everyone on the beach, but no one's there because it's chucking it down with rain. So I'm just sat there thinking, oh, bloody hell, what's happening? Next minute, I can see all these people running into the sea. I see the bride and groom running into the sea with their friends. And I'm like, right, now's the opportunity. So I grabbed my camera, stuck it inside the sandwich bag, and I ran inside the ocean. And it was like being in like the North Sea. It was just like, it was grey. It was like there was logs in there, trees floating around. And it wasn't like the vision that I had in mind.
Absolute opposite of your vision.
It was, yeah. So I did what I could with this equipment, and I got back home and B pulled the pictures up on the screen, and you were like,
I was just like, oh fuck, this is bad.
And I was like, yeah. I said, look, B, let's have some faith in the raw file here, because they looked all misty and like someone put Vaseline on the lens. Had this kind of like hazy vibe about them. But when she edited them, we looked at them and thought, ooh, these look quite magical. These look quite different.
There's something in this.
That
was the thing. It was like, there's something here.
There's something here, yeah. So
on this image,
no,
it was all misty.
No, not that one. No. This is
okay,
now that this is like more a refined version. I'm talking about the first picture that I did was like all grainy and misty and awful, but we made something of it, and we could see something in this style of photography. So I then took it upon myself to buy an underwater housing, and it's made by a company called Imagen, and you can put your camera inside it, and you can still get full functionality of your camera. And the key to getting these sort of shots is to get one that has a dome port on it. So it's massive. It takes up like a third of my suitcase. and I hold it like this. It's got a big dome port on it. And so just sort of going back to this picture here, this was done in 2018, and it's my favorite photograph for a number of reasons. So I've actually become really good friends with the groom, Mark. And this was the day before the wedding, and they knew they were going for these photos. And they were having lots of stress with family at the wedding. Someone's passport had gone missing as well. And I said, guys, let's jump in the car. I took them to this secluded beach that I know in Cala Estreta, which is northern Spain. And they were like, we were walking towards the sea through the pine trees. And you could just see like all the stress start to leave this couple as we came out the oceans there. And they were like, we're so glad you brought us here, Liam. Like all the stress with the wedding, this just feels amazing. So I taught them through the process of the pictures, got them on these rocks. And then I'm kind of like in the sea and I'm up against these rocks and the waves are just hitting me. And as the waves are hitting me, I'm like blasting off a series of pictures. And so in this picture here, I got quite badly like cut up on the rocks, and I got a bit of I got a jellyfish sting as well. So, so when I think about this picture, I think about the sort of what I had to do to get that shot. And then, but also then what it meant to that couple as well. So it's all about the kind of the feels I get from this photo. It's not just about how it looks. It's about how did I feel? How did they feel as well? So that's why I just love this type of photography, because it's magic, to be able to go in the ocean and do stuff like this. You never know what's going to happen. You never know how the pictures are going to look. And I'm always surprised with the pictures that come back. And how this makes me so excited to do more. B's got the picture here, actually.
I've got the first ever one that we're talking about. Can you see?
Can you send a link and I'll try and edit it into the show? So
I can attempt to.
Yeah. So I wasn't on the water, but I was in the sea with this camera, and I thought, I'm in the sea with a camera. This is bonkers. And I wanted to do more of it, and so I love it. And most people who book us for destination weddings now will have these pictures.
But before you, sorry, Greg, sorry to interrupt. I was just having a look at the iClite.com website, and if you're thinking about trying this type of thing, I mean, obviously the prices are in dollars, but it's like $1,695 for an underwater housing for an R5.
What a bargain!
So they do go up in price, but that's the kind of starting price you'd be looking after.
That's right. And I've sold mine still for the Canon 5D Mark IV, and I might actually, talking about equipment, and me not ever wanting anything, I do think we should upgrade the underwater housing.
For God's sake!
I'm only saying this because I'm happy with all my equipment, but I did a wedding in Greece in September, and it was about 3:00 in the morning. Everyone's dancing by the swimming pool, DJ's outside, and I'm like, okay, it's near the end of the night here, but I need to get some shots in the pool. So I basically stripped off and went in the pool with my underwater camera. And I'm stood there with my underwater camera, and I'm like, I'm waving to everyone, guys, come on, everyone jump in. No one is acknowledging me. I'm like, I felt like a bit of a
stood there in your boxers at a wedding.
I'm just stood there like, no one's listening. Then next minute, the bride walks along. It's like, I'll do it, Liam. So she bomb dived into the pool, and everyone then jumped into the pool. The whole wedding party are in the pool, and I'm like trying to back button focus on this big underwater housing with the 5D Mark IV. It wasn't having any of it. I did get something, but if I had a mirrorless camera with eye tracking on it, some of the shots I would have got in that situation would have been amazing. So I was a bit disappointed with how my equipment performed in that situation. Doing these underwater shots is fine with the Mark IV because there's just a couple static on the rocks. But when everyone was thrashing around in the pool, it did let me down a little bit.
I think you definitely need to upgrade there.
I think so too,
Enablers, that's what you guys are. Enablers.
Usually it's me as well.
He paid us to say that.
Greg's the normal, level-headed one, whereas I'm like, let's buy all the kit. So I'm surprised.
What's your approach when William comes back with these underwater photos? Like, how do you approach the edit, and what's your thought process?
There's absolutely loads of them to start off with. From one
I can imagine,
we're probably pulling maybe 10 images, and there's maybe 500.
Most are shit. Most of them are out of focus.
Most of them are out of focus. my main goal is I'm really upping the contrast and I'm really upping the saturation, and I'm making sure that the sea is pulled out. That's one of Liam's main things. He wants to see rays coming through the sea. That's your jam, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so that's my kind of approach to it. See what I can pull out from the sea. Normally, it's pretty good. If you're in a lake, not great. So Liam did some in a loch up in Scotland. There was nothing coming out of the water there.
Loch Lomond, yeah.
Again, in a lake in Switzerland, there wasn't anything really coming out of the water there. But yeah, it's about saturation and details of things, really. And obviously on these ones, some of them I'll come down and I'll make sure that we're looking at silhouettes rather than actually well-exposed people.
Yeah. So obviously, B, you mentioned Liam shooting in lochs and stuff. When I look at this picture that's on the back, obviously there feels like there's a bit of a, there's the tide, there's waves and stuff. But on a loch, it's quite still and not really much is happening because there's no like tidal waves.
Yeah.
So Liam, is there like a? Do you do anything to create any waves? Are you like holding the camera housing with your right hand and like splashing water with your left hand? Like, or are you dunking it down and like, do you have like ways of manipulating the movement of the camera to get different shots?
Yeah. So there's like a few things that need to come together for these pictures to make them really sing. So number one, the couple need to be positioned in a way that you can see, because there's small people in the background. We're taking in like the seascape. We want like nature to kind of come through in the picture. So they're always like little people in the background, and so they need to be in a position where we can see people. So, like for example, stood with the sky in the background, they're framed against the sky. We can see there's two people there. So that's
Sorry, that's our dog going.
Bloody Amazon drivers.
Honestly, chucking the parcel over, honestly. He's gone. So, yeah, we need that. And then ideally, you need the sun quite high, but behind the couple. So if the sun was behind the photographer, then we're getting flat light. We're not going to get any of this like beautiful spangly goodness that we've got in the sea here. So, yeah, sun needs to be quite high as well. This image that we're looking at here is a different kind of vibe to most of the underwater pictures that I take, because most of the underwater stuff that I do, you can see under the water. And in order to be able to see under the water, the sun does need to be quite high to be able to penetrate enough light through to get detail in the sea. Sun needs to be quite high, slightly behind the couple. Couple need to be on the rocks in a way that they're going to be silhouetted against the sky. And I can't always achieve that. Depends where I am, the location that I'm in. So when I was in Loch Lomond, it wasn't really the best location for this shot. I'm happy with the picture, but I see faults in it. And this particular couple really wanted.
The bride really, really wanted to go in the water, didn't she?
She really wanted to go in the water. So I got some shots of her walking into the water first in like a dress. But this was October, like 2 years ago. So it was cold. And then after that, I got into the loch. And I had to wear one of these daft dry suits. Have you seen the dry suit? So it's not a wetsuit.
I love a dry suit.
Dry suit.
Oh,
yeah.
right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look like
good for paddleboarding.
I look like an F1 like driver in this like daft suit, basically, because it was cold. Like Loch Lomond's cold, isn't it? It's cold. So
fuck yeah.
And I had them on the side. I couldn't find a position where I could have them framed against the sky. So they're in a position where there's trees behind them.
You'd also accidentally bumped your ISO up to something ridiculous.
Yeah, the ISO was silly, like 25,000 on the Mark IV, which was. But I got something that they like the picture. I like it too, but because I'm a bit of a perfectionist with this type of imagery, it didn't fulfill the criteria that I usually look for.
Yeah, it's interesting because again, I'm going to refer back to that Scottish blog post that you that we were talking about that I looked up, and it had you what seemed like so you've got like a burn or actually a river coming down, and you'd placed the couples maybe what seemed like in the middle, but obviously on a rock, and you were down below. So you're always kind of like a lot of your compositions are you shooting from below. which I find quite interesting. Is that just so that you can use the sky to create those simple shapes? Is that kind of that's you getting rid of stuff by like lowering the camera?
Yeah. It's just a way of me like minimizing the elements in the frame. So just sort of going back to the type of image I like to create. I don't want my eye to be dancing around too much when I look at an image. I want just a few elements in there. So if it's like a landscape, we're going to have the sky, there's going to be horizon, there's going to be a couple, maybe like a tree, but the tree has to be kind of maybe framed against the sky as well. So getting low like that, cuts out quite a lot of distracting elements, but it also creates drama as well. Like when you're looking up at a couple in an image, it's got this kind of, imposing sort of drama about it. Whereas like if I was looking down towards a couple in a scene, it doesn't have that kind of same kind of spark, I don't think. Yeah,
I get that. I get that. That's cool. Before we do show and tell, obviously we've been talking about underwater stuff. Whenever I think underwater photography, I think of Lexi Lane.
Yes, love her.
Amazing,
love her.
Yeah,
her work is stunning. Obviously there's a bit of a difference because obviously you're not like fully like your couples are on the land and you're in the water. Whereas she uses models and does free diving and all of her stuff's underwater, usually in a place where there's like lovely clear water and the sun rays are coming down. And you think, I bet that water's warm. But if anyone's not seen Lexi's work, definitely go check it out. Also, we have a podcast with her from back in the years. So if you like old content, there you go. Anyway, show and tell. Show and tell. Show and tell.
This is a
I
bonus.
need to make a song for this section. So, show and tell is where I try and pick three images from Instagram or your website, wherever I've gone to find images. And they're like my favorite images of your work, or the ones that I've seen anyway. So, funnily enough, we'll start with the underwater one, because this is, obviously, I just mentioned Lexi's work and your couples being on the land. This was like the first image I came across where your image was with you in the water and the couples under the water.
Yeah.
And the reason I like it is because, again, you can tell the sun's right above, and those light rays are very delicate, and the sun's like kissing this couple from a lovely pose, by the way. It's lovely. But it's also not that deep, so you can see those light rays coming through, and that color. Obviously, you've spent a good amount of time making sure that blue is a delicious blue. So you've done a great job. So can you tell me about Liam, can you tell me about your thought process with this image, the couple, and any struggles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. So like you say, most of the time these pictures are of couples on the rocks on land, because I'm dealing with they're not models, they're real people, and not many people have the confidence to kind of swim under the water and try to come together in a beautiful pose like this. It's particularly when you've got a photographer there as well. So I've never really tried to encourage my couples to go in the sea. So I didn't actually encourage these guys to go in the sea. It wasn't the plan. So this couple, they're from North Carolina in America, and I was waiting at this bar in a place called Satuna, which is in Catalonia, waiting for them to arrive so we can go on these pictures here. Mm-hmm. So they turn up, and I remember the groom, Kyle, was like, "Oh, Liam, man, we've got a terrible hangover. Can we just have some beers first?" So I'm like, "Yeah, cool, let's have some beers." So we sat down, had some beers with these guys, and they were like, "Do you know what? We want to try something different. We want to go in the water. Can we go in the water with you, Liam?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So instantly when they said that, I then started thinking about, well, I've got this couple who are on board who are willing to try something. I want to get this shot where, there's kind of rays of light coming through the water, and tried to get them to sort of swim together. So my thought process for this is exactly how it looks. And it took about maybe about 20 shots to get this right. God bless her. She was so tired at the end of this. And so, yeah, my instructions were just, guys, like, go underwater and just like try to swim toward each other. They didn't have any goggles on. They couldn't see where they were going. I said, hold on to each other's hands. And when we've done that, try to arch the back and bring the legs up in an elegant pose, and let's see what we can do. So they were my instructions. And it took about, a good 50 attempts probably to get it right. Yeah. But the image actually was nothing like that, how I took it. I mean, it's all down to this beautiful lady here. She's made it look very pretty.
So B, I do want to ask you what your process was behind this image. Like, what was the raw file like? Like, was it shit? It was shit.
As I remember it, it's difficult because there's been another one since this that's pretty similar. But with this, I remember there was no contrast to it whatsoever. So I've had to bump up the contrast enormously. And also there were some really blown highlights, so on their legs especially. And so I had to try and bring those back as much as possible. And yet you were right before about me fiddling around trying to find the perfect blue. That is not the exact blue that the sea was.
Yeah. Technically, there are issues with that. I
look at it now and I'm still like, no, those highlights.
Yeah, some of the highlights are a bit bright.
And people viewing this on YouTube, obviously, you're not going to get the full representation of what this image is. But yeah, I think you guys have done a great job with this image, especially like you mentioned, Liam. They didn't have any goggles. Did you have any? Were you wearing goggles? Could you?
Yeah. I had I had some goggles, for this. So I'm in live view. Actually, did I? No. On this one, I didn't have any goggles, and that was a struggle. That was a struggle to me. But then it inspired me. After this, I thought, ooh, I can do more of this. And since then, we have done more of these types of shots with our couples. And since then, I've invested in some fancy goggles to be able to do more stuff like this. So yeah, it's thanks to this couple that I'm actually able now to produce more stuff like this, because they had the balls to give it a go.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. But yeah, are there any couples like? I mean, take that Scottish couple, for example. Are there any couples from like Scotland being like, "Yo, we want to get this shot, but in the Loch Lomond"?
Not yet. Let's put it out into the universe.
Yeah, let's do it. Do it. I mean, I don't know. It's a bit risky.
It must be a wee bit of a blessing and a curse. Like being known, like your drone shots or your underwater shots are sort of signatures, and couples, like as Simon says, coming to you saying, "Oh, we really want that," but when you can't get it, like that must be a bit of a crap. Like it doesn't work. You can't do that in Loch Lomond. We can't get the sky. Like is that?
I think
is that a struggle?
I think sometimes like I need more of an awareness of like the capabilities of my couples, because like this image here, for example, I mean, I'm really happy with the results, but because I'm in the zone when I'm trying to shoot, and I'm so kind of obsessed with trying to get the results that I need, I can forget sometimes that they're human. And because my adrenaline's pumping, I'm like, let's do it again. Come on, guys, one more time. And this is a seriously deep part of the sea here, and I guess at the end of it, I saw how tired she was when we got out of the sea. Like she was actually shaking a little bit because she was fatigued, and I thought, oh bloody hell, maybe I've pushed him too much here. So that's just something I need to have a bit more of an awareness of, which is probably why I wouldn't do it in a place like Loch Lomond, just because, well, it's freezing cold, isn't it? It's not crystal clear. Imagine being on the news that the photographer who lost a couple in Loch Lomond. It's not going to go down well, is it?
Nope. Nope. You'd be like, rebranding. Oh no, we can't use our names.
B plus Liam.
Next image. So obviously, I'm trying to get different, because when I pick images, when I go through a gallery, I don't want to get the same kind of image. So you can see the screen, okay?
Yeah. This is a relatively recent one, and I did so much work on this. If you look to the right side of the image where you've got the yellow lines coming down, none of this is here. I've put all this in. So that was just like a door looking to outside, and you can see all like light streaming in. It just didn't look nice. And I knew that Liam would want it as simplistic as possible. And so I generative filled all of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
So what was the process there then? Like, is this close to what you'd envisioned, Liam? And like,
yes, close.
How did you come up with the generative fill? Like, what was your thought process there?
So this is in the venue called Loft Studios in London. It's a really cool venue, but this is just like one of the corridors that leads it's like a backstage corridor. It visually, when you look at it, it's a bit rough. Like it's tatty. It's not really meant as a kind of space to hang out. So the couple there are actually stood next to the toilets. There's a light there, and that's by the men's toilets. And like as I was walking through the corridor, I can just see this little pool of light in the distance, and I had this vision in my head then of like the couple stood there looking up towards the light, quite a kind of minimalist, dark and moody sort of vibe to the image. The on the left hand side you can see like a diagonal, a yellow diagonal. That's a ladder.
A ladder, yeah.
And I think there was actually a guy. Okay. There was a guy up on the ladder at the time changing a light bulb, and he was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I'm just trying to get creative, you know."
Yeah.
And so I saw the pool of light in this dark corridor, and I thought that's attracted my eye, and it has got that kind of minimal vibe about it as well, because you've got like the couple there. There's that line on the left there, and then on the right hand side where those three lines are, you could actually see outside there. You could see people milling around. But then obviously B knows my personality. Your eye's going to be going between that and the couple. So she's like, let's fill that in.
Yeah. And normally my go-to would be black, just black it out. But I was like, I love the yellow of this ladder and I want to reflect that the opposite side, but I don't want it exactly the same. So I want to bring the color in, but in a slightly different fashion. And thankfully, Generative Fill saw my vision and created it for me.
Amazing. How much time are you spending on an image like this?
So an image like this would probably be about a 5-minute job, 5-10 minute job. It's not enormously long. 5 minutes, I would say, max on this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not long. I'm editing in Lightroom first, so I'm getting it all spot on in Lightroom first, and then I'm just taking it out to Photoshop to generative fill the bits that I want to take out or change, and then it just drops straight back into Lightroom.
And with an image like this, have you culled it down to one of this type of image?
There's a couple.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Liam's just like bam, 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 bam.
For this vision, yes, but as Liam said, there was a guy up a ladder. So there's another version where there's the guy up the ladder. So there's only one image presented in this fashion, but there are there are maybe 3 or 4 from this scene, but just that are all very different.
Yeah. I think as well with the pictures like this, I find it quite exciting because it's like I can show people that you can create something visually exciting and interesting, even in an environment that initially would seem a little bit shit. So if you're if you're like a wedding photographer now, you know, and you're new to the industry, sometimes you might feel that, I need to be at like a really fancy posh venue to be able to get great pictures in. And, you know, it's not always the case. You know, you just got to open your eyes and look for light and look for shadows, look for interesting compositions. And that might just be in the corridor on the way to the gents' toilets.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, why not?
You also just need a bee as well.
You do.
That too.
Of course you do. Everyone needs a bee. She's mine, though. She's mine.
Right, last image. And I really like this image. I
love the images that you've chosen. These are,
nice.
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm drawn to abstract, maybe non-traditional wedding photos. And to me, all of these seem to be that. So the reason I picked this is like we are wedding photographers, but with this, you've kept the grunginess of it, and I feel like this is either a women's bathroom or like an alleyway in a city. Now, obviously, I don't know. I like the fact that it's black and white, and I like the fact that the tiles are, well, I don't know what color, but they seem black, but they're just reflecting this kind of like ghostly image of a bride. Now, you wouldn't probably know who this was if you were to like actually know the person, like, because you can't see her face, really. There's no groom. But I like how grungy it is, and the fact that you've placed her right in the middle of this frame is really nice. So Liam, talk to me first off, like, were any of my assumptions right of where this was?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah. So it was on the streets of London.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a groom in this photo.
Was there?
There was.
Oh, you've taken it out, you devil.
Was there a groom?
And I've cropped it down. So it's one of these photos where Liam looks movement in his photos. And so he's got if I remember rightly, the groom is running through the frame. So there's, 40 different frames of the groom at different moments. And this is one of the moments where the groom is right on the very edge of the frame. And I was like, I really like that. Just that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite images from this year, I think, that one, just because it's
really?
It's just I've not taken a picture like that before. Yeah. So that's why I look at it and think, because like wedding photography or photography in general, trying to find like new ways to create pictures is hard, isn't it? Like if you're an artist, let's say you're drawing a picture or painting a picture, you can make that so unique compared to other people. Whereas like, because we've got cameras, it's more difficult to represent things in a way that hasn't been shown before. And I love doing that in my photography, trying to tap into new ways of seeing. One of them is being through reflections. I love reflections. We live in the British Isles, so we're never short of puddles, aren't we? There's puddles everywhere. So I'm always looking at reflections in puddles, reflections in walls. And what's amazing about a reflection is no two reflections ever look the same. So whenever I create an image of a bride and groom reflected in a puddle or a wall, it's always got its kind of unique standalone qualities. And that's what I really like about this image here. It's just I've not shot a reflection like that before, and I just love the simplicity of it. I love the kind of dark, moody sort of vibe about it. I love the fact that you can't really see a face, so it's got a bit of mystery about it as well.
Right.
So it's just I love it. It's one of my. I mean, I might even get a massive print of it actually and stick it on the wall. What do you reckon, Ben?
Yeah,
sure. You should.
Hey, I'd love a print of this. Can you make this available on a store so I can buy it?
Of course, no charge for you guys. I'll send you a freebie.
Get out here. You will not, will you?
I'll send you the high-res file. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, please do. That'd be amazing. I can't remember where I got this, but you see images differently when they're displayed differently. So now that it's on the big TV, there's actually like a shadow figure here on the left, and I really like all the kind of like ominous shapes that you're kind of just able to see if you look really closely.
Yeah,
I really like that about this image. But
have you removed Liam from this shot? Because it's quite a straight on shot.
Yeah, I can't remember where I was stood.
Like, where would Liam have been to get this?
I don't know. Where was I?
Is it over her shoulder or something?
Because there's a lot of lines.
Yeah.
So unless you've like transformed the image,
I cannot remember, but
I think I was behind her.
Yeah,
I should know, shouldn't I?
I don't know. Can't remember.
Yes, you're terrible.
I think with these shoots, like, I mean, I've got this couple with me, and they got married in Tower Bridge. So we had like I like to call them smash and grab photo shoots. So when you're in London, like it's like the hustle and bustle of the city, everything's going like super quick, and you've only got a certain amount of time as well. So I often, like when I look at a photograph, I have like no memories of actually creating it because I'm just walking so quickly. I'm just being completely what's the word? Instinctive as well with my kind of ideas. If I see something with my eye, there's a reason why I like it. Just try and create a picture that I might not know the reasons why I like it, but I'm seeing something, I like it. Let's create a picture and then move on.
Yeah. Do you, I like that. With that approach and knowing that you've got the editing whiz of B, do you just not care too much if you're in the shot? Like with your the drone shot, you were like,
doesn't give
I'm in
a
it,
shit.
it's fine.
He's just like,
do you just not care?
Deal with that.
in a way, Greg, it does make me a little bit lazy sometimes because I have got this, master of her trade. Sometimes I'm like, I probably need to move.
Yeah, fair enough. Tips for those listening, if you're thinking, I don't really get reflections, or I never get abstract photos. A tip is whenever you go into a room or wherever you're in a place, just stop looking at your couple. Just for a little moment, just stop looking at them and just have a look around where you are.
Yeah,
and then that is like the first step. Stop thinking about people and start thinking about surfaces and textures and and then you'll start to see puddles. If you're an elopement photographer, you'll be like, I don't have any reflective things. You'll start seeing puddles now. You'll be the photographer lying on the ground next to a puddle.
Yeah.
Or you'll be looking for shiny things. You'll be in the bathroom and you'll be like, those tiles are really shiny. I wonder if I could shine a light on somebody and take a photograph of that. All these things will start
that reminds me of the Glencoe one in November when you were in the puddle and you were like what you thought Liam was maybe doing. You're tapping the puddle to create ripples. I was making it made this sort of otherworldly sort of of the couple were just getting warped.
Yeah, I've not even seen that because I haven't edited it yet, but I'm looking forward to that shot. But yeah, just try and remove the people from the place and just start looking at things a little bit differently if you're struggling.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, if you do this all the time, then you'll be like, shut up and move on.
So looking back over your whole photography career, what's been the most rewarding aspect of it? What have you enjoyed most about this profession?
A combination of it. It's given me some really fantastic adventures. So when I think back to the places that I've been, and I've been in many different countries around the world, and I've got those kind of memories kind of banked, those experiences banked. I've been in Norway next to a lake with mountains in the background. I've been in mountains in Switzerland, and I've been in deserts and in Bahrain. And so having these memories, I feel very privileged that I've been able to go to these places, get paid rather well, because wedding photography can be quite lucrative compared to delivering parcels for Amazon. So having those special memories, having those adventures, but then also seeing how happy pictures make people. So when we presented our pictures to our couples and just seeing how made up they are with these pictures that I've created that they can then keep and pass down to their kids and grandkids. I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, but yeah, those two things really, just making people happy with photography, and then being able to get paid to basically go on these amazing jollies around the world and take pictures.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. What about you, B?
Do you know what? For me, it's the flexibility of it. I just love the fact that I can be there for my daughter. I can drop her off at school every day. I can pick her up. I'm there for all the Christmas performances. And I can work that around my work. And just the difference in one shoot from another, it's so varied. Even though much of it is the same theme, it's the same thing over and over again. They're all different because it's different people, it's different emotions, it's different things happening. It's a joy. I find myself smiling from ear to ear, culling weddings or editing them. It's a really good job. What a way to make a living, eh?
It is.
Yeah, indeed. Do you have any piece of advice for people just starting out with their photography career?
Yeah. I think if you're a wedding photographer now and you're new to the industry, even people who aren't new, maybe people who are struggling to find their way as wedding photographers, it's much more difficult now because there are so many great photographers out there.
This is it. It's saturated with amazing talent.
So if we're going on like social media, Instagram, and we're following various photographers who are successful in the industry, sometimes you can be maybe influenced too much by what you're seeing other people create, and you can forget a bit about yourself.
Well, you compare yourself to those
people.
Yeah,
well, you compare yourself. So my advice is, like, everyone sees the world in different ways. So whenever you're at your next wedding, try to kind of put to the back of your mind pictures that you've seen me take, or Andy Gaines, or Adam Johnson, or whoever. Put that to the back of your mind, and then start trusting in your own eyes. So you'll see something at a wedding, and your eye will be drawn to. It could be a shape, a line, a texture. You'll see something differently to everyone else, and you'll find like an interest in something. So don't ignore that. If you see something, try and create a picture in that space. It might be a certain type of light. It might be a certain type of composition or a shape. But there's a reason why you're attracted to it, because it taps into your personality. You might not know the reasons why your personality likes it, but just go and create a picture in something that catches your eye. And the more you do that, you'll start to then find that you're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of your photography, because the pictures that you create have been directly linked to you as a person. And that way you're going to have a little bit of individuality about your photography as well, rather than it being a replica of someone else.
Yeah. Great advice.
Solid
Great
advice. Yeah. So finally, in wrapping up, do you have any book recommendations for the listeners?
Well, B is a bookworm, so she's got some, haven't you?
Let me have a think. I've got a whole host of books, like business workbooks as well, up on the shelf upstairs. But if I had to pick one, I think it would be Atomic Habits by James Clear. I love that book. Like habit stacking, trying to find ways of making life easier but more organized. I love all that shit. Thrive on it.
Yeah, I like that one too. And it's good because you can implement it in life, but you can also implement it in business.
Another one would be, actually, I have another one. I think it's by Hal Elrod, but I might be wrong. It's The Miracle Morning. It's basically about implementing a routine in the morning. He says getting up at 5 a.m., but I think that's a little bit killer. But it's about integrating this routine, about getting up, having a little bit of movement, doing a little bit of reading, maybe having a little bit of meditation. It's all these different steps. But I think that it's a really excellent thing to integrate into your day. So for me, mine's very small. I get up at 6, I do some Pilates, have a matcha, and I'll look at my phone or do some journaling or something. But The Miracle Morning, love that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Would be you can get The Miracle Morning. You can get it on Amazon for £9.
Oh, there you go.
And you can get Atomic Habits again on Amazon at £10 paperback. Obviously, support your local bookstores. I always take Amazon as like a very easy, quick Google information.
You always seem surprised when you say you can get it on Amazon. Everything's there. They've got everything.
I get surprised when there's not a book that's like £800 for the special edition fucking book. Anyway, guys, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for giving us this amount of your time. Where can people find you online, or have you got anything to sell our listeners?
Do we have anything to sell?
We are pretty bad at business. Yeah, we have nothing to sell.
Oh no, we do. We have my presets.
Oh yeah, we
have
do.
My presets.
We do have some presets. Buy them if you want. If you don't want to.
Yeah. Pretty sure.
No, don't buy them even if you don't want to. Buy them.
But they are our current editing. Like, it's exactly the edit that we have. So, and they're available on our website, aren't they?
They are. Yeah.
But yeah, you can find us
online. And your website is
liamandb.com.
Yeah. And our Instagram is liamandb.com.
Just Liam and B. At Liam and B.
Yeah.
Everything's just Liam and B. It's really simple.
Yeah.
Liam and B. Liam and B. There you go.
Yeah.
And people can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram is at perspectivebycinemate. And our YouTube, which is youtube.com/@perspectivebycinemate. You can subscribe, hit the notification, like, follow, all that kind of good stuff. You know the drill. Thank you very much to With Jack for sponsoring this episode. So if you need insurance for your business, then Ashley Baxter is probably the person who will fight your battles if you ever need to claim on anything. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation, and if you have, like I said, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you in the next one. However,
in the meantime,
enjoy your life.